9-week review, what it is and why bother. My name is Elizabeth from the Superwomen Detox. It is my mission to help women, especially mothers, live the life that they're excited to be living, not to do all the things for everyone else all of the time, but to live the life that they want to be living, to live the life that they are excited about. And how does the 9-week review fit into that? Well, that's what I'd like to tell you about today. The 9-week review. How did I come up with it? Well, a few years ago, I was doing the Couch to 5K NHS app. I'm sure many you may have heard of it. It gets you from being a complete non-runner to being a runner in 9 weeks. So you run 3 times a week, and I just found it incredible. So you start off really slowly. On week 1, I think you run for a minute and you walk for 2. You do that 3 times, and then slowly it increases how long you run for. And before you know it, 9 weeks are up and you've gone from being a complete non-runner, somebody like me before I did the Couch 5K who said running's not for me and I would never do it and it's boring and blah 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 blah, to then being a runner, someone who can run for 30 minutes straight. In my book, as a runner, no matter how slow they go, I go very slowly. I am not a fast runner, but for me that's not the point. For me the point is you're now a runner. So 9 weeks, you can achieve really transformational things. As I say, complete non-runner to being a runner. So I started taking that idea and thinking, okay, 9 weeks, what can I achieve in 9 weeks? And I started doing this pretty quickly after I did my Couch to 5K, is that I always marked out 9-week chunks in my calendar. Oh, where is it? Here. This is my calendar. I'm still a pen and paper person. Love pen and paper. So I'd mark out my 9-week chunks, and I would think, okay, what do I want to achieve in those 9 weeks? And you can see here I've put my little dots on where my 9-week reviews are going to be. And I would then think about, okay, what do I want to achieve? And I always try to focus on, well, I now try to focus on one goal, but I'll show you. So tell you what, I'll show you how I used to do it, and then I'll show you how I think I'm going to be doing it going forward. So this is my old book, 2020. You can see I do a lot of writing. And this at the very back, this is what my 9-week review looked like. This is from the 13th of July 2020 till the 13th of July till the 14th of September. Now I wrote down a load of different things, and I've got my highlights here. So I wrote about our lives, what was happening at the time. Now last year obviously was peak COVID and lockdowns and things like that, but by July, September, things had started being a bit more normal here in Scotland, and then they went back to being full on lockdown. But there was a brief period in between July and September when we were able to go to restaurants and there was a beautiful outdoor market that we went to, and I even was able to go to a few yoga classes in a studio. So I wrote about that just to kind of fill in the background. Then I had an area for learning. What is it that I learned about myself? And I wrote that my main area of learning has been about health, home, and boundaries. So one of the things I realized during that 9-week period is that actually I wasn't very good at setting boundaries, and I was often doing things that were draining my energy and that I wasn't fulfilled with, and actually was draining my children's energy and they weren't fulfilled with, but I did them anyway to please other people. So I learned a lot in that chunk about boundaries. Health. My husband and I did the Slim on Starch, like the kind of starch-based eating program encouraged by McDougall, and we both had really great success with that, lost quite a lot of weight, so and felt really good, most importantly. So I wrote about that. Then I always have an area of what went well. I wrote that our houses never looked better. I suppose lockdown had a lot of time to paint things and tidy things up properly. Yeah, I did a huge declutter, painted lots of furniture. We had this really black fireplace that is now white and it looks so much nicer. We bought lots of houseplants, and I just wrote all that stuff down. And then I had a thing about improve, something that I felt that in the last 9 months that maybe I learned about myself, learned that I could do better going forward. And I focused on building a relationship not based on wanting to help, but on feeling fulfilled and inspired after spending time with that person. So those were the kind of lessons that I learned in that 9-week period. And then I wrote down the highlights, the things that, you know, when I look back on it, I think, yeah, that was really, it kind of maybe summed it up. And what did I write? I did, you know, how many? It's either 200 minutes of yoga or 2,000 minutes of yoga. Not sure, can't read my own writing. I bought lots of my houseplants, read 26 books, listened to TED Talk while getting ready in the morning. So I kind of started putting into place a few different habits. And this is where during the 9 weeks I would track my progress. So I just divided it up into sections. And again, I have areas here where it says went well, challenges, focus, and highlights. And then just in the corner, I would write how much yoga I did. Yeah, so how many minutes of yoga I did that week, how many steps I took, what I weighed, and how far I cycled. So there were some really lovely things about how I did that then, but there are some things that I would certainly change, I think, going forward. So I've actually taken a bit of a break from the 9-week review, and I've really missed it. So I'd like to start doing it again with you, but with a slightly different focus, because like I say, there were some lovely things, but there were some things that I think I was focusing too much on the numbers. So the fact that I read 26 books in 9 weeks, great. I read a lot, I really do like it, but actually I remember choosing really skinny books or really easy to read books so that I could get that number up, which I think kind of defeats the purpose. I wasn't choosing books that were really engaging or really enlightening. I chose books that were really easy to read. And again, the number of yoga classes or the number of minutes I spent doing yoga, well, that's great. But again, am I choosing to do that because I think I should or because it feels right for me at the time? So for the next 9 weeks, I would like to shift my focus. I'd like to focus more on softer targets, which I know we're always told about. Don't do that. It's not the way to go. You need the numbers. You need the hard targets. But actually, I'm going to focus on my word of the summer, which is delight. And I'm going to focus on little wins. So the thing that I think works really well about the Couch to 5K app is that kind of becomes your priority for those 9 weeks. Obviously, you're still going to work and you're still looking after your kids and all that kind of stuff. But a lot of your time is then spent thinking about, okay, when am I going to run and when am I going to schedule that in and how am I going to eat before I run? And it kind of becomes the thing that you schedule a lot of your life around. And that is the other thing that I would say is that what is your big thing? What is the thing that you really want to achieve in the next 9 weeks? And kind of make that your priority. Because when we try to do too many things at one time, it just all gets lost and it gets muddled and it gets so much harder to do it. So instead of trying to do all of the things, my thing is going to be delight and little wins. So what does that mean? Well, my word for the summer is delight. So I'm focusing on delight and not perfection. Now, I don't know about you, but as a recovering superwoman wannabe, I used to always strive for perfection and it just never worked for me. I would get debilitated in my fear of not being perfect, so it would stop me from doing anything. When the kids weren't perfect, I would get really nervous about what other people would think of me. Or it was just this burden of perfection and it just doesn't work for me. So now I aim for delight. So if my kid comes to me first thing in the morning and his school shirt is all bunched up and his trousers are back to front, instead of correcting the stuff that's not perfect, I try to focus on delight in the moment and just give him a smile and give him a hug. You can deal with the other stuff afterwards, but delight being the most important thing. Or when I schedule the activities for the summer, well, actually, I've decided to not schedule very many activities at all because you know what? They don't make my children feel delight. What makes my children feel delight is playing dodgeball in the garden or just my daughter picking flowers and making a collection. So we're going to be making a lot more space for that. And sure, my son's not going to be tennis champ at the end of the summer, but you know what? It doesn't cause him delight. So why force it? So that is the first thing, focusing on delight. And the second thing is focusing on the little wins. And this is something that I really strongly encourage you to do when you're thinking about this 9-week review and thinking about, okay, where do I want to be in 9 weeks? What about if in 9 weeks' time you're in a place where you're more compassionate with yourself, more accepting of who you are? And I think one really great way to do that is to write down all of the little wins you have every single day. Because you know what? I bet there are loads, but I bet you don't give yourself credit for any of them. So even if it's just one little win every single day. So this is my calendar, my planner. And on the 22nd of June, I got my first email list subscriber. So I wrote it down with a big star. And you might think, oh, your first email subscriber, big deal. But it was to me. So I wrote it down, and I'm going to celebrate that, because for me that was a really lovely moment and I got really excited about it. And I also wrote down, moments where my kids are running around in the garden and they're giggling and they're having a lovely time. Or the funny thing my daughter said to me after we did a nice activity together. So just please focus on the things that you do. Please spend the next 9 weeks just writing down all of those things that you do that you're so wonderful at. You may not be perfect, I'm not, nobody is, but I bet you're really wonderful. I bet you're a wonderful, caring mother. I bet your children are so lucky to have you. And I bet everybody else sees how amazing you are, but I bet you don't. So I would really like to challenge you for the next 9 weeks to every day just write down something, just a little win, just even the tiniest of things. And then by the end of the 9 weeks, just sit down and go through, whether it's your paper planner or your phone or wherever you decide to do it, just go through it in 9 weeks' time and see what you came up with. I bet it'll be a really lovely list, because I know that you are an incredible mother. Thanks.